Hi everyone, this is the video for the Unit 2 Checkpoint Quiz Review. This review sheet will look exactly like the quiz that we take. So feel free to watch the video once, feel free to watch the video twice, feel free to watch the video 3 times if you're interested, because tomorrow's quiz will look exactly like this, except with some different numbers. Number 1, Mrs. Smith has 12 girls and 13 boys in her class. Each girl brought 10 pencils, and each boy bought 14 pens. So first, I'm going to do the girl numbers, okay? So I need to say 12 girls and 10 pencils. I can do 12 times 10 easily in my head. I know that's 120. Now let's do the multiplication problem for the boy numbers. 13 times 14. I cannot do that one in my head, so I'm going to do a strategy. You could do repeated addition. You could do traditional if you know traditional. You could do an area model, which seems pretty popular. A lot of kids are digging the area model at this time. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to do 13 on one side, and I'm going to do 14 on one side. And when I fill it in, that will be the answer to 13 times 14. 10 times 10 is 100. 3 times 10 is 30. 10 times 4 is 40. And if anybody misses anything, it's always this corner one. 3 times 4 is 12. So if I add all of those areas together, that's the area of the entire thing, which is the answer to 13 times 14. If you can't add them up in your head, you could do an addition problem off to the side. 100 plus 40 is 140, plus 30 is 170, plus 12 more is 182. Okay, so the girls brought in 120 pencils, and the boys brought in 182 pens. How many total pens and pencils does Mrs. Smith's class have? So now for my final step, I need to add the two numbers together. So on the quiz, you will have to do the exact same thing. You will have to do a multiplication problem for the girls, a multiplication problem for the boys, and then finally add them together. Our total answer on this one is 302. Letter B, fill in the bubble beside the equation that best represents this problem. Well, I can see exactly what we did. First, we did the girls, 12 times 10, and I can see that here and here. So I know this one's not correct and this one's not correct. And the boy numbers, I did 13 times 14. But I know that I had to add them at the end, and this is the only one that has an addition symbol in between the girl multiplication problem and the boy multiplication problem. So this last bubble is correct. This last bubble totally represents what we had to do up here. Number 2, for the problem 18 times 10, which of the following statements is not correct? Let's see. 18 times 10. 18 times 10, maybe I'll put the answer up there, it's 180. 18 times 10 is 18 hundreds. 18 hundreds would be this. That is not correct. So I think that's the answer. Let me make sure the other ones are correct. 18 times 10 has to be more than 100 because 10 times 10 is 100. Yeah, the answer is more than 100, right? If 10 times 10 is 100, 18 times 10 obviously is more. So this one is correct. 18 times 10 is the same as 18 tens. That's correct. 18 times 10 is the same as 10 18s. That's correct as well. So the last 3 ones are correct. The question is asking us, pick the one that doesn't make sense. And that first one is the one that doesn't make sense. Number 3 says, fill in the blank. 10 times 7, I know the answer is 70, but you also could think 1 times 7 is 7, 1 on the left, 1 on the right. 40 times 50, 4 times 5 is 20. 2 zeros on the left, so I need 2 extra zeros on the right. So it looks like there's 3 zeros, but that's because one of those zeros is part of the basic fact. I need 2 more zeros in addition to that. Okay, this last one in this first row, let's see. Something times 4 is 36. Well, 9 times 4 is 36. Now I need to make sure the zeros are balanced on each side. I see 1 0 in the answer, so I need 1 0 in the problem. Down to the second row, 8 times something is 48. Well, 8 times 6 is 48. Now we need to see if the zeros balance. I see 2 zeros in the answer. There's 1 0 in the problem, so I need 1 more 0 in the problem. So now I have 2 zeros in the problem to match the 2 zeros in the answer. 30 times 12. 3 times 12 is 36. 1 0 on the left, 1 0 on the right. 10 times something is 250. I know the answer is 25. Let's just make sure it works. 1 times 25 is 25. 1 on the left, 1 on the right. You also could think when you multiply something by 10, you always add a 0 to it, or everything shifts one place and then you add a 0 at the end. So 10 times 25 would be adding a 0 to 25, 250. And the last row, let's see, I see a 45 here and a 45 here, and the only difference is 2 zeros. So I'm going to put the number 100 in there, but I'm going to double check and make sure that that makes sense. 1 times 45 is 45. 2 zeros in the problem to match the 2 zeros in the answer. Remember, when you multiply by 100, a lot of people think just add 2 zeros. Or you could think everything shifts 2 places to the left and 2 zeros are added. 300 times 15. 3 times 15. Let's see, 15 and 15 is 30. Plus another 15 is 45. 3 times 15 is 45. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. 60 times 25. Let's see, 6 times 25. I'm going to think 6 quarters. 4 quarters would be $1 or 100. 2 more quarters would be another 50. So that's 150. So 6 times 25 is 150. But then I need 1 more 0. 1,500. Number 4 is to fill in the blank. This is sort of that break apart method. And I need to make sure that the left side of the equation matches the right side of the equation. I see that on the left there's a 52 and on the right there's a 52. On the left I see a 30, but on the right I only see a 3. That means I need a 10 because 3 times 10 is 30. Let me make sure you get that because this can be challenging for kids. Do you see a 52 on the left and a 52 on the right? Yes. Do you see a 30 on the left? And now that let's see if I can make that bigger. Now I see 3 times 10, and that equals 30. So I have a 52 on the left and a 52 on the right. And now I have a 30 on the left and a 30 on the right because 3 times 10 is 30. Let's look at the next one. 36 and 70. Do you see a 70 here? And isn't 7 times 10 also 70? So now, to make both sides of the equation equal, if there's a 36 over here, then I need a 36 over here. Okay? Let's make sure that that looks correct. Okay? 36 times 70, that's the same thing as 36 times 7 times 10. Because you can break a 70 up into a 7 and a 10. Okay? All right. The area of a rectangle is 16. List all of the possible dimensions. That means we're looking for the factors of 16. So if I were making a rectangle, I could make a rectangle that was a super long, skinny one, a 1 by 16 rectangle. I could make a rectangle that was 2 by 8. Let's see, 3 times something does not get me 16. Ooh, 4 times 4 gets me 16. So these would be all the possible dimensions, and that would give me an area of 16. So this one was basically asking for the factors of 16. And remember, you can also list factors in a line and think of a factor rainbow. Somewhere under the rainbow, factors fly. To get a product, they're the numbers that you multiply. All right, on to the second page. Remember, this is going to look exactly like the quiz. Number 6, These are area models, but I've left out some important information that you need to fill in. Okay, I can see that the left side is 5. And if there's a 50 in here, I know that this must be 10 because 5 times 10 is 50. If there's a 5 on the left here, I know that, that this must also be 5. And 5 times 2 gives me 10. Okay? So all I'm doing is filling in an area model that's partially done. At the very, very bottom, this is where I'm going to write in like the entire width times the entire length. So I see that the entire width is 5, and there it is, and the entire length, 10 plus 2 is 12. So this is an area model showing the question 5 times 12. And 5 times 12, I don't have to figure it out. I've already figured it out. 50 plus another 10 is 60. The other one, I see if this is 100, that must be a 10 by 10 section, right? If this is 40, then this must be 4 because 10 times 4 is 40. So I'm just filling in an area model that is already partially done. I just need to fill in the parts that are missing. I see a 30 here. If the side is 10, then the top must be 3 because 10 times 3 is 30. And that very bottom corner section, that makes sense because if this is 4 and this is 3, 4 times 3 is 12. So at the very bottom, that's where I'm going to write in the whole shebang. The entire left, 10 plus 4 is 14. And the entire top, 10 plus 3 is 13. So this area model is showing the problem 14 times 13. I don't have to figure out 14 times 13 because I've already figured it out. Just add the area of the inside. 100 plus 30 is 130. Plus another 40 is 170. Plus another 12 is 182. So 14 times 13 is 182 because that area model shows it. Number 7 says, draw an array to find the answer to 11 times 23. So 11 times 23, it's going to look very similar to what we just did up above. 11 on the side, 23 on the top. And remember, instead of a 10, and a 3, you could do a 20 and a 3 on the top. Okay, 10 by 10 is 100. 10 by 10 is 100. 10 by 3 is 30. 1 by 10 is 10. 1 by 10 is 10. And 1 by 3 is 3. So to figure out what 11 times 23 is, I just need to add up the area of all those sections. 100 plus 100 is 200, plus 30 is 230, 240, 250, 253. Moving on to our ratio table, be careful because this ratio table is skipping around a little bit. I can see that one bag has 8 marbles. 1 times 8 equals 8. So 2 times 8 would equal 16. 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, it's skipping around. If I know that 1 times 8 is 8, then 10 times 8 would be the same thing, but with a 0, right? If I take 1 times 10, I get that. So take 8 times 10, and I get that. I can use what I've done in my ratio table already to figure out what 14 times 8 is, okay? 14 times 8. Well, 14 is the same thing as 4 and 10. So let's just put that and that together, and I'll get my answer. 80 plus another 32 is 112. So instead of doing 14 times 8, I took 4 times 8 and 10 times 8 and just put it together because that's what 14 times 8 is. So you can use part of a ratio table to help you figure out another part of a ratio table. Number 9, this is also sort of that break apart method. I see a 7 and a 16. I know I can break 16 up into a 10 and a 6. You see that? So instead of 7 times 16, isn't it the same as 7 times 10 and 7 times 6? So they broke apart the 16 into a 10 and a 6. 7 times 16 is the same thing as 7 times 10 and 7 times 6. 17 times 30, I can see that they broke up the 17 into a 10 and a 7. So 17, they broke up into a 10 and a 7. So 17 times 30 is the same thing as 10 times 30 and 7 times 30. So on this one of the numbers will be broken apart. The other number stays consistent. Okay? So 16 got broken up into a 10 and a 6. 17 got broken up into a 10 and a 7. The other number stays consistent. Number 10, Lillian's room is 12 by 15. Oliver's room is 11 by 16. Whose room has more square feet? You have to do 2 multiplication problems. 12 times 15 first, and I might do an area model. 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 5 is 50. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10. Add it all together, and I get 180 square feet. That's Lillian. Oliver is 11 by 16. I'm going to do 11 times 16 differently. I'm going to do 16 times 10 and get 160. But I really need to do 16 times 11. So I'm going to add one more set of 16 to get 176. So Oliver is 176 square feet, right? Because 16 times 11, do 16 times 10, then do one more 16. You could also do another area model. You don't ever have to do multiplication the same way as your neighbor, okay? So which one's bigger, Lillian or Oliver? Well, this one has more square feet, so Lillian has a bigger room. All right, kids, this is a pretty extensive quiz review. Watch the video more than once, especially on those break apart sections. Number 9 and number 4. All right, here are all the answers. Unit 2 checkpoint quiz review. All right, kids, I will see you in class.